My friend Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. We're here with the executive producer of the show, Huck L. Berry. How you doing, Huck? Huh? You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Yes, you're a good puppy. You're a good girl. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good girl. Yeah. Thanks for being in here. Saying hello to the audience. They love you. Yes, they do. Promise. So, we've got a gangbuster show for you today. December 1st, our movie, American Sasquatch, is out on Amazon, Apple TV, and other links. And if you go to missing411.com, you can buy DVDs, Blu-rays, and my new book by the same title. And in fact, now we have all of our movies on DVD. Missing411.com. And if you're an old-timer, NABSsearch.com, and then go to the online store. Friends, I get blown away sometimes by wildlife and how current trends seem to progress across the nation. This report came in on November 20th. It said, school field trip in Bella Coola, British Columbia turns into fight for survival as a grizzly injures students and a teacher. Bella Coola is located north of Vancouver, quite a ways north. And then you have to go inland east. It's really in the middle of nowhere. It's a First Nations community predominantly. Said a routine field trip turned into a fight for survival on Thursday when an unprovoked grizzly bear charged a group of 20 students and teachers near the Bella Coola River, seriously injuring 3 kids and 1 adult. The grade 4 and 5 class from Axolotl School had stopped for lunch along a trail at about 1:30. During a land-based learning trip just across the highway from the Nuxalk Nation School, when the towering animal emerged from the forest, instantly terrifying students. This is from the Vancouver Sun. We heard a growl that a lot of kids were scared, said a 10-year-old. Staff reacted without hesitation. One of the teachers confronted the grizzly, unleashing bear spray and firing a banger to scare the animal away from the kids. What followed, Alvarez said, was chaos, students screaming and running for their lives as the bear circled and attacked. Blinded and agitated, the bear ran straight through the group, knocking Alvarez, a 10-year-old, onto his stomach as it barreled toward the rest of the students. I got bear spray on my lips as I fell to the ground, he told the Pasmalomia News. The student and a few of the classmates, along with the teacher, made a split decision to sprint back towards the highway near the school. Quote, I told a few people far away because others were being attacked and I was too scared of the bear. To run as fast as you can, Alvarez said. We had to run all the way back to the school. I was losing my breath. His mother, Veronica Schooner, said she rushed to the school after receiving an emergency text following the incident. Police were everywhere in the foyer. I grabbed him and I took him out of there, she said, recalling how her son's face burned from bear spray and was limping from an ankle injury. 4 people suffered serious injuries, including 2 who remain in critical condition and another 2 in serious, according to the BC Health Services. 7 other people were given first aid at the scene but didn't require hospital commitment. Bad weather forced the BC Ambulance Service to call for a Joint Rescue Coordination Center in Victoria for assistance, but a plane and helicopter sent from the Canadian Forces base in Comox were unable to land in Bella Coola because of weather. Patients were instead taken by road ambulance on a grueling 450-kilometer, 6-hour trip. Unbelievable. I told you, it's in the middle of nowhere. To Williams Lake Airport, where they were flown by air ambulance to hospitals in Vancouver. The first third of the highway out of Bella Coola is gravel, often narrow and clinging to mountains. Neil Putles, the head of the Nuxalk hereditary chief, told the Canadian press on Friday that all the students and Indigenous teachers are relatives of his. He He identified one of the victims as a cousin. Paulides said the encounter left his relative with serious injuries, which are currently being treated for in Metro Vancouver, where doctors are also treating seriously injured kids. He said his cousin took the main onslaught of the injuries, which included severe head trauma. Paulides added that he saw one young boy with emergency room with head injuries and his face was covered with scratches. There are probably 100 people in the local ER at one stage. Parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, etc. Other family members of the injured students took to social media on Friday. Post media was unable to connect with any of the attacked victims. One child required 100 stitches, had 3 bone fractures, and had emergency surgery. RCMP and conservation officers searched for the grizzly overnight near a 4-mile subdivision in BC's Central Coast, but the animal wasn't found. The BC Conservation Service said the investigation will continue. Meantime, authorities have urged locals to avoid the forested areas. A tight-knit northern BC community is reeling from the attack. To our students, we are so proud of the way you supported one another. School suspended classes on Friday. The unprecedented grizzly bear attack occurred without provocation and has resulted in significant trauma to our community, the chief said. We are incredibly proud of our teachers and students. The attack could have been worse if it had not been for the heroic actions of the teachers who put themselves in harm's way. He described the bear attack as extremely rare. In my 34 years of experience, I have not seen an attack like this with a large group of people, he said. We are trying to determine the behavior and why the bear acted the way it did. He said members of the Nuxalk Nation know how to coexist with bears, and the teachers were well prepared and equipped with bear spray. Van Dam said there have been a couple of bears identified as having increased interactions with humans in the area, but doesn't know whether it was one of those. Veronica Schooner noted that her son's class wasn't deep into the backcountry when the attack happened, but just across the highway from the school. Other people have been living alongside bears for hundreds of years. Why all of a sudden are they attacking? We know to be bear aware. A few weeks before the encounter, the Nuxalk Nation Stewardish social media page warned residents that there have been reports of bears migrating through the valley and we need to do all we can to be aware of it. Bears can be aggressive and predatory at the time of the year as they're trying to boost their fat storage systems for hibernation. The BC Wildlife Federation issued a statement Friday saying that grizzly attacks have increased since BC banned hunting in 2017. Let me stop there. The same exact thing has happened in Montana. We have a lot more grizzly bears in the last 5 years. Interactions between people and grizzlies have increased, and bear attacks have increased as well. The state of Montana is trying to get grizzly bear hunting approved, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is resisting, saying that there's still, I don't know, I get frustrated with this, that they're still a protected species. With no hunting pressure, grizzlies and humans will increasingly occupy the same spaces with inevitable consequences, said Director Jesse Zeman. Zeman said members of the Crestone area say they no longer feel safe walking outside due to the rising number of grizzly encounters. According to the Federation, grizzlies are the animal most likely to attack humans in BC, which is home to 15,000 of Canadians' estimated 26,000 grizzlies. Oh yeah, and we have a lot of them here in Montana, Idaho, etc. I read you this because I gotta say, something weird is going on. I mean, attacks in Japan, attacks in Arkansas, and now attacks in Canada. Bear behavior is weird. They're super, super smart animals. Scary. I have 2 cases for you today of missing people. First one involves a man named Ian Rogers, 39 years old. This is Ian. Missing August 26th, 2024. Last seen at his mom's house on Shadeville Road in Crawfordsville, Florida at 9 a.m. He said goodbye to his mom and he headed for work. On August 23rd, 3 days before he disappeared, Ian was employed in the construction trade. And his boss really liked him. He'd been doing a great job. And on that day, he was promoted. And his boss went out and bought him a work truck. A Ram 2500, white in color. So everything was going good for him. Got a good raise, got a good truck. And the day after he disappeared, he had his son's 10-year-old birthday. And everyone in the family said he would never miss that. Well, on August 26th, when Ian was saying goodbye to his mom at her home at 9 a.m., he would have traveled north to Tallahassee to a work site that he had been at. His boss's name is Joe Webster. And Joe tried to communicate with him that day and couldn't get him on a cell phone when he didn't show up. So what Joe did is Joe decided to drive to his mom's house to see if she had seen him or what might be the trouble. Is he sick? Got there and the mom said that he was leaving at 9 o'clock for the job site, has no idea what happened. Ian's truck bed was filled with construction equipment. That's a key point. Later that day, Ian's mom contacts the sheriff, reports her son is missing, and the license plate is entered into a national-wide computer system. Later on that day, Ian's truck is caught on a surveillance system in Tallahassee near a place called Tom Brown Park. The police pulled the footage, reviewed it, and they couldn't determine who was driving the car, whether it was Ian or somebody else, because it wasn't very clear. The truck did not come back in any other footage or stops associated with their license plate. So an important point here is that it's obvious that Ian drove the truck to Tallahassee. He didn't go to work. But did he drive the truck around Tallahassee? Did something happen and he lose the truck? It's kind of strange. He liked the outdoors. He specifically liked fishing. And there's photos of him with some nice fish online. His mom described Ian as very kind and funny, and he was a fun person to be around. A year goes by, actually more than a year. November 9th, 2025, Ian's truck is found on private property in the middle of the woods off of Old Plank Road in Leon County. Now, this would not have been on his route to and from work, and it was obvious that it had been there for quite a while. Windshield was full of dirt and gunk. Well, the sheriff's office went there, recovered the truck. Now, where was it? Well, this is an important point. This is where Ian left his mom's house on Shadeville Road. The truck is found over here on Plank Road in the Plank State Forest. When Ian went to work, he would have went out Shadeville and straight north to Tallahassee. So this would have went way east and out of his way to put the truck where it was at. Now, if he was coming from Tallahassee, the quickest route to that truck would be south and then east on this road right here. There's nothing out there, folks. Now, it was on the verge of the state forest, but it was on private property. And the owner just hadn't been to that part of his property in a long time and find the truck. So he finds it, he calls the sheriff. Now, this part I'm really concerned about. Some of these small rural departments don't have the crime scene crews that big departments have. and maybe don't see the urgency or the need to handle that truck like a primary crime scene and possibly a murder, because we don't know what happened. But they find the truck and they request mutual aid to search the area. And November 11th, the sheriff's office goes out with the Northern Florida Search and Rescue Team, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Leon and Wakulla Sheriff's Office, along with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Department. They ended up searching 70 acres, ground pounders, 4 different canine units, a sophisticated ground search. They got nothing. They said that more searches were probable. One of the captains, a guy named Brett Suris, stated that it is a missing persons case, but it's being looked at by their Criminal Investigations Division, and they're looking at all angles and exploring any leads. How many times have we looked at cases very similar to this? Trucks just abandoned in the middle of the woods, sometimes with animals in them. And many of you have commented that, are these people driven there by some force, summoned there by some idea in their head? I don't know. His mom says that there's no way he would have missed his 10-year-old son's birthday. And then another weird twist is, while Ian was gone for that year, his brother died suddenly, and he missed that funeral. So I would hope that the handlers of this truck took it seriously and worked that whole area up with intent. Now let's pretend you're a criminal and you stole the truck. Well, they're in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to get home from where you dumped that truck? And because it's in that area south of Tallahassee, in the general area of his mom's home, I almost think in my mind that he drove it there. I may be completely wrong. They may find his body in the area someday. I have no idea. But there was never any inclination of mental health issues, dementia, etc. Why would he do it? And then again, if you know Missing 411 The Hunted, that vehicles can be moved by some external forces in ways we don't understand, was that truck just put there? They never stated if the truck was locked, if they found keys, etc. But that is Ian Rogers, 39 years old, missing August 26, 2024. Weirdly, that was Ben's birthday. Second case. We just covered a missing hunter, Devin Dobeck, who went missing from the Mount Hood National Forest, and now another case in the Mount Hood National Forest. Much earlier than Devin's case. It involved a woman who was elderly, but there was no evidence of dementia, named Elizabeth Babe Huff, 75 years old, missing August 8th, 1979, 5'8", 110 pounds. She was camping with relatives at the Bear Springs campground in the Mount Hood National Forest. All right? See how good your memory is? So, Mount Hood, here's the campground she was at. Devin disappeared on the other side of the highway down in this area. But this area and this campground are very remote. Not a lot out there. But I will tell you, around Mount Hood, there is a lot of strangeness. And it isn't consistent to just one small time period. It's gone on for years. I've written about several cases. Now, Elizabeth was originally from Nampa, Idaho. And about 2 years before this incident, she moved in with her stepdaughter, and her son in Bonanza, Oregon. The campground itself, where she disappeared from, is about 40 miles west of Maupin, Oregon. Elizabeth was there with her family, friends. Everything was going great. About 8:30 in the morning, she tells her family she's going to go for a walk. Nothing unusual. We've all done it. In an area where there's Forest Service roads, as long as you stay on the road, you'd think you'd be pretty safe. Well, by 10:30, she hadn't come back. They started looking for her, calling for her. They couldn't find her. And they called law enforcement at 11:30 a.m. that day. Warm Springs Police Chief Jeff Sanders said she just went for a walk and didn't come back. He said he immediately sent 2 trackers out to the scene, along with deputies and PD personnel. They even had bloodhounds that they got, several, and went and tried to search the area where she went around the campground. Nothing came up. 31 searchers were on scene and scoured 10 square miles. The investigation continued, and eventually the word got out to government agencies in that area, and a state wildlife commission employee reported seeing a person fitting Elizabeth's description on a Forest Service road between 4 and 4:30 the day she disappeared. He said she was walking in a healthy manner south, didn't ask for help. My car was marked. She could have easily flagged him down and didn't. He said she didn't look to be in distress. Well, that brought a whole entire new search. Helicopters, more ground pounders, etc. She was walking on a road. Canines were put on the tracks on that road, and they said that they just continued and were eventually lost on the road. A 5-day search and rescue reported they found nothing additional. Question: what happened to Elizabeth? One of the theories put out by police is that she was picked up on that road and taken out of the area. I don't believe that. That dog don't hunt in my book. You hear this theory every once in a while by older people who are in a region and they disappear. It's an easy way to kind of get rid of the case, but it makes you believe that there's a serial killer driving around remote Forest Service roads looking for people to pick up. I've never seen that. I mean, I've been on thousands probably of Forest Service roads in my life, and I've never seen anyone suspicious on any of these roads. And I've had people drive up to me and talk to me and ask for directions, etc. I don't know. So, Elizabeth disappeared August 8th, 1979. On February 18th, 1981, the family had a memorial service for her where she lived a majority of her life, which was in Nampa, Idaho. And on August 19th, 81, at the St. Paul Catholic Church, they had a ceremony and a lot of people showed up. Little interesting tidbits about her life. She was born October 7th, 1903 in Mountain City, Nevada. She worked as a nurse in Nampa, Idaho for the majority of her life. And that is the area that she lived in for most of her life. Her surviving son, Edwin Drobny, was from Bonanza, Oregon. And he was the one that orchestrated the services. So this happened 45, 46 years ago. She was never found. Think about that. How could she never be found? And she was walking on a Forest Service road. Now, the Forest Service and volunteers from different agencies routinely walk these dirt roads, Forest Service roads, and they pick up garbage to keep our forest road. It's a volunteer action. And when they're walking along those roads, they walk off roads. So let's pretend that Elizabeth was walking on the road, walked off a few feet, and just died from natural causes. She would have been found. That is why I am putting this case in front of you, because it is extremely unusual for a person like her not to be found. And the sheriff himself said that this area is extremely remote. Well, there were other searches that went back to the same area in subsequent years where they searched for her for over training, calling it training. Never found her. Now, I've also told you that disappearances in the same area of forests usually don't occur in close proximity to one another. And why is that? I personally believe if you spread searches out 20 or 30 years, the people that work in those areas forget about it. They retire, they move on. So Devon's disappearance, the people that worked on that case probably have never heard of Elizabeth's case. Yet, if they happened back-to-back years, people would be saying, what's happening here? You spread them out far enough? No. So those are the two cases for today. I greatly appreciate you being here. You are what makes this channel important. Kindness is the key. Even in those days where you're in a bad mood and you maybe don't have the patience that you normally have, dig deep. Be kind. Be kind to service workers, the clerks at stores, the waitresses and waiters, truck drivers. Just think, almost everything you have in your house comes by way of truck. Yes, we need those people. And maybe not a glorious job in some people's minds, but those people are driving up and down the highways every second of every day. And you got to have gratitude for that. Friends, with the winter coming, make sure you keep an emergency blanket in your car, maybe a couple bottles of water. There's too many stories out there of people who live in severe winter conditions driving off the road, getting stuck in their car and can't getting out of the car, and they're stuck inside and they freeze. Keep an extra blanket, keep a few bottled waters, and keep a cell phone charger with you in the car. My recommendation for today. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.